you kept coming back to the Twitter account because there were parts of it that rang true to you, that were talking about different information than you had seen from other sources, like the archaeoplanetography and like the teaching of telepathy that Tani was doing, and which eventually became the manual that the Ponte wrote to help Earth humans increase the skill set that they have with their telepathic sending and receiving. And so Tani began dictating to us in 2016 the Telepathy 101 primer. And that summer, we took the first notes and writings that she had dictated to us up to a conference in Chewela, Washington, a Sasquatch conference, at their request, and taught it to the audience as the very last class, the last hour of the conference itself before everybody disbanded. So we really didn't get a lot of feedback from the people that had attended that first screening of the Telepathy 101 primer. That winter, Tani understood that applying images to what she had written was important for Earth humans to put images with words. And so we scoured finding the right illustrations for the words that she had dictated for the Telepathy 101 primer. And Radar was the one that suggested adding the bits of humor to it, because Earth humans retain learning better when you add a little fun to it.
Yes.
And so all of that became the manual that was published on the winter solstice of 2017. And then that Telepathy 101 primer was translated very quickly into a dozen Earth languages within the first 3 months of being published. Volunteers stepped up and wrote it out in French and Spanish and Chinese and Japanese, I think. But there were a dozen major Earth languages that it was republished on the Ponte's website. We had official first contact up and going by the end of 2017. And that website began to grow with everything from the telepathy manual to the evidence that the contactees around the world were gathering to prove that they had received a visit from the Ponte. Because they knew that anybody can say, well, I had telepathic contact, and make up a story and have nothing to show for it. And they wanted to substantiate their visits. So the people that picked up the Telepathy 101 primer at the beginning of 2018 and studied it and started inviting the Ponte to their home, then began to gather evidence of those visits and sent that evidence back voluntarily to the official firstcontact.com website.
And I remember when I had finished, the first time that I had finished reading the Telepathy primer, and I did have an experience that evening.
Oh, you did? That quick.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that quick. So in the primer, at the end of it, they talk about how to send out an invitation, to a star nation to try and engage conversation. And so I went through the protocols and the focus in the mind and the emotions and stuff, and sent out an invitation. It was directed to the Ponte, and I was hoping for a response. Nothing became of it that evening, and so I went to bed and went to sleep. And then I woke up around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm trying to get back to sleep, and then I'm in this halfway stage of sleep where I'm just about to drop into sleep, and with my eyes closed, it was almost like I was seeing like the Matrix from the movie, the green,
Okay.
the green,
The letters and numbers.
coming like that, and then this far from my face, all of a sudden appears, when I have my eyes closed, a Ponte's face, 3-dimensionally, looking at me. And I went, whoa! And I flew out of bed. I landed on the other side of my bed, just like, what the heck was that? Oh my God. And then when I contacted you the next day and told you about the experience, and then you said it's kind of like equivalent of them coming up and saying, do you hear me? Can you just turn the volume down a bit?
Yeah, a little too close. It's funny, after you had that experience, that was in 2018, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this year, in May, spring of this year, we had a fellow film some documentaries and include an interview with me regarding the Ponte, and the documentary was called Conscious Contact, Full Disclosure. The gentleman that flew out here to film and interview us was named Tyler, and Tyler, before he came, I believe it was, read the Telepathy 101 primer and decided he would give it a try just to see if it would do anything. So he sat with his back against a tree and followed the instructions like you did and dropped down and meditated, and within minutes had right in front of him, just like you described,
with his eyes closed,
an image of a Ponte right there. And it startled him just the same way it startled you. And so the two of you had almost identical experiences. Yeah. And so when he relayed that same story to me, I thought about you, and I had to laugh and say, listen, Tyler, you're not the only one that's had that happen.